topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to my show, Learning to Dance in the Rain. I just love that music. It gets me in the mood to talk with you, and it makes me want to dance, and I love to dance. I'm very pleased today to have a guest, Pastor Carl Litchfield. He's my pastor at the Burr Oak United Methodist Church, and he's also pastor of the Mendon United Methodist Church, and I thank him for coming today. Carl has been an active minister for 41 years, and usually it's been in smaller towns and rural settings. Burr Oak is one of those small towns, and Mendon is a little bit bigger, but it's still not a really large town either. I thought it was very interesting. Not only is Carl a minister, but his father was a pastor, his oldest brother, and his twin brother. And wow, his wife, Jerry, also is a minister. So serving God is definitely a priority in his family. Along with caring for his congregations, Pastor Carl has also served 8 short-time missions to Bangladesh and Nepal, teaching significant books of the Bible to impoverished pastors and seminary students. He and Jerry have been blessed with 3 children, 4 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. Wow, I'm very, very happy to introduce you again to Pastor Carl Litchfield. Hi, Carl.
Hey, hi, Shelby. It's nice to see you.
Oh, glad to see you today.
Thank you for inviting me. Appreciate being here.
You're very welcome. We have a lot to talk about, and it seemed like it was very short few weeks ago when we missed.
That's right. That's right.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, I'd like to start with the slides that I presented a few weeks ago on love, and just kind of review. I think of love as a bridge, Pastor.
All right.
Here we have the picture. Can you see the picture okay?
I can. Yeah.
Okay. Snow covered. It was very winter that day when I was making the slides. But I thought this was very appropriate to the topic of love, because the bridge connects 2 sides over some cold water.
Very much so.
You said to me about that just a few minutes ago.
Right. Yeah, if it weren't for the bridge, these 2 sides just could not connect. They could not touch, being divided by the river. Right. So you need a bridge. You have to build a bridge. And the thing about building a bridge is if somebody has to build it from one side and somebody has to build it from the other side so they can meet in the middle. So you just can't start on one side and go all the way across, I would guess anyway.
Yeah, that's very true. And so today we're talking about love. And I think love is a lot of that foundation, that bridge that crosses between 2 sides of the river and connects 2 people.
Trying to build a bridge of love, right?
Right. So what is love? Love is a tender feeling, right? Gentle feeling, a passionate feeling towards others. And as we talked one time, that has a lot of different meanings, like, yeah, I love you. I love my child. I love pizza. So it's kind of hard to know, but we are talking.
Now you're getting kind of close to the heart. Love and pizza. Right. Love and ice cream.
So we'll go on to, shall we start with the, how do I know if I'm in love, or do you want to comment before we get there?
Well, first of all, I was taking a closer look at chapter 10, where you have the list about love and everything. I want to just say, first of all, you are a wonderful writer.
Oh my, thank you.
It's a pleasure, really, to read your book and to see how you're expressing yourself and your thoughts very smoothly, very well. You're just, it's easy to follow your thoughts. So well done, well done. And I'm glad to be able to have a copy of your book. And as I looked at the different titles of the chapters, chapter 10 is What is Love? And I was looking for, you had mentioned that there were some lists involved here, and those lists are there. But the one thing that intrigued me the most was this conversation you had with a man that you were dating. It's at the top of page 53. And would it be okay if I read that passage, or would you?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Actually, it begins at the bottom. The man you were dating had said, I love you, but I am not in love with you. Mm-hmm. That sounds like a complicated thing for someone to say, and for you to actually hear and receive with kind of equanimity. About what? Right. Or get mad about it. What do you mean? Well, actually, that's the heart of it. What do you mean? You have to really get to the bottom of that. I paused for a moment. I considered what he'd said, and then I asked, what is the difference? He immediately responded, don't you know? I guess I'm not sure. You know what? We just assume, if we don't have these conversations, we assume that the other person understands completely what we just said. And so often, especially when we're talking about something as complicated as love, it's not so. We really have to go to a deeper level. We really have to explain it. He began to explain, I love you like I love my daughters and my friends, but I am not in love with you. I was in love with my wife. I knew when I first met her that she was the one I wanted to be with all the time for the rest of my life. I like you a lot, but I'm not in love with you. So you're saying you fell in love at first sight with your wife? I asked. Yes, he said. And I couldn't resist the quip. This is funny. Well, you were only 18 then. What do you know? Shelby, that might have been the end of the date right there.
We really hadn't.
He laughed with you. And you continued, I don't believe in love at first sight. This is the part that really caught my attention. Love takes time. We can like at first sight and we can lust at first sight, but I don't think we can love at first sight. I think there's a lot of truth in that. Could you say a little bit more about that? What was it about love that takes time? That you don't really believe in love at first sight?
There are a lot of people who meet first time. At least you see shows on in the movies where they meet. They don't really like each other. They argue a lot, and it goes on for quite a while before they finally decide
all over again.
Right, right. But yeah, it just takes time. Even when you are attracted to them right away, you really need to. You don't. You can like a picture, like on a dating site. I'd see a profile and I'd read about this man, and I'd see his picture. Kind of liked it, so I would talk with him and we would chat. And then about 2 days later, he's telling me how much he's in love with me. And I don't see how that is possible at all. You know? And that was kind of one of the first clues that this man was a scammer, actually, because
he's trying to rush things along.
How can you see from a picture their personality? You know, I mean,
it's
one of the things, even when you meet the person for the first time in a restaurant, you may, they may have certain habits, eating with their fingers, or I don't know. I don't want to say the gross things, but some of them could do it, scratching their nose or picking their teeth or things, and you don't see those.
Talking with their mouth full or whatever, or ignoring you and not talking to you at all.
Right. So when they told me, even before we met, and actually we never met anybody that told me they loved me before we met, because they turned out to be scammers. And so that's one of the warnings that I give people. If they
right.
tell you they're in love with you, the second, an hour after they start talking to you, or a couple of days, or even before you have met, that is impossible, I think.
I agree.
Also,
I agree.
we continued that discussion about love at first sight, in which I said, well, you're saying you're not in love with me. Well, I say in love with me. With that phrase is always including in and with. And
With
I
and
love
with.
you. That's one thing, but I'm in love with you. I hope that you're in love with me too. I mean, doesn't with me mean there's another somebody over there turning that?
It's not just your emotional attraction. I love you, but when I would say to my wife when we were dating, I am in love with you. What I'm saying is not only am I in love, but I believe that you are also in love with me. It's a mutual thing. Two people, love flowing in both directions. I think that's what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
And he says, well, sometimes you're in love with someone and they're not in love with you. And I said, yeah,
Right.
well, that's unrequited love. But I said, that's not in love with.
Right. No, it's incomplete.
You may think you're in love with them, but you're not in love
that.
with them unless they are also returning that love.
Exactly.
That's my opinion of it anyway.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I really appreciated the conversations you were talking with your lady friends a little further down on the page, on page 53. And we're seeking their opinions about being in love. What was it? The falling in love or love at first sight, that you were asking that. And you asked the first woman that you were with, you were alone with them in the car. And the first one explained being in love with someone is only infatuation. Infatuation does not last. Love, on the other hand, does last. It grows and develops over time. It is deeper and lasts longer. I agree with what she's saying. I think we can confuse lust with love, physical attraction with love, powerful feelings, and we may think that we're in love, but over time, physical passion, physical attraction will be diminished, but something else has to come in and take its place. And I think that is where that mature love only gradually grows. And it takes a while to understand one another. It takes a while to begin to accept one another. And the more even though there might have been those habits that somebody had shown you on your first date that you found annoying or off-putting when you were having that first meal together, it might be just who that person is. And after a while you say, oh, well, but he is so wonderful to me, and he's honest, and he's forthright, and he's sharing from the heart. I can overlook some of these quirks in his habits and that sort of thing, as long as they're just these minor things, but they don't negate the fact that he's a genuine person and he's expressing care for me. And I believe that we have this mutually growing love. This bridge of love is being brought together and being made complete. But it doesn't happen instantly. It does not happen instantly.
It doesn't happen immediately either. And I've had, I was hesitant to mention about eating with their hands because I now have, as you know, a blind friend and partner, and he eats a lot with his hands, and I'm watching him and I'm thinking, wow, I would have thought of a sighted man. And I would have been second thoughts about it. But then when you see him, you think, how else is he going to get some of that food up on his plate? How
does he know
know
there's
where
food?
the food is on his plate?
Where the food is to put it on a fork if he's not touching the food.
And he is using a fork.
Touching the fork.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I never thought
perspective changes as you get to know certain people.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The second two women got in the car, and I asked them both at the same time. And it was, one started off similar to what the first one had said. And then when the second lady was saying, well, you're in love with your husband or one man you're going to marry, but you love your children. And then she kind of switched over then to that, kind of agreeing with her friend, and said, so I thought that was kind of interesting. But I really liked what Eric Fromm down on the next page, the famous psychoanalyst, said, we spend too much energy on falling in love, but we need to learn more about how to stand in love, how to let that love grow, and think about giving love instead of receiving it. I think a lot of times it's, well, he doesn't do what, he doesn't hold my hand anymore. Well, why worry about that? Is he attentive when he does come in and does think about you? Does he miss you when not together? So there are lots of other things that are come into play. And I liked what you said in our last discussion about deciding, hey, I chose her. I chose her.
Right. And when I came to that conclusion, you remember the movie that Marilyn Monroe was in, The 7-Year Itch? It was about 7 years into our marriage. And I knew my wife, Jerry, very well by then. And, there were certain things that I was absolutely still over the top about and everything. There were some things that absolutely still bugged me completely. And, I kept thinking, if only she would do this, or if only she would change this way, or if only she were better in this regard, or something like that. And it finally occurred to me that I do not have the power to demand that. You must change. If I'm going to love you, you must change. What I realized was that if I truly loved her, then I needed to accept her just the way that she actually is. And I cannot make demands. I don't love you unless you lose weight. I don't love you unless you give me more attention. I don't love you, and it was just that I can remember waking up on a Saturday morning and this realization, but this is the woman I promised to love forever, and I'm going to keep my promise. She didn't change. There were still those things that we were separate about, different about, and certain ways we disappointed one another. She was doing the same thing for me. She accepted me and all of my flaws and quirks, and they're a lot. But we hung in there, and the longer you hang in there, the deeper that love relationship, the more that love relationship matures.
Right.
Yeah.
That brings up a point about so many divorces. I think they think they're in love, and they get married, and then that passion subsides a little bit, and maybe they're not giving them the compliments and things that they did at the beginning, and so they start to look away to other people that are giving them some of that, and then they think, maybe I wasn't in love with him after all. Maybe I need to get maybe I needed to get a divorce.
What happened to the excitement? I want that excitement again.
But if you love somebody, you love them.
Right.
That doesn't matter. You do what you can do to continue to keep your promise, you make a commitment. What is it about that word now?
Commitment.
Yeah, that commitment. I mean, I was shocked when I started dating again, going to dances and meeting these single guys. And nobody wanted to make a commitment anymore. It was like it was a swear word almost.
I was taken by surprise when I read that was your experience, that these older men were shying away from the idea of any kind of a commitment.
Mhm.
But, maybe it's just because, okay, you're in a casual social relationship, a casual social connection, and they don't intend to have any ongoing developing relationship. They just want to be that they like dancing too. And so, it could be that was the extent of what they hoped for on that evening, just several dancing partners that were light on their feet. And
Well,
just
I heard it a lot in the chats that I did on the internet dating. Yeah. Yeah. I'm interested in a long-term relationship, but I'm not interested in a commitment like marriage or anything like that, And
now you got to explore definitions, because I thought a long-term commitment relationship entails,
right. That's a commitment, isn't it?
Yeah. But what kind of a commitment do you have if you don't? Here I am speaking as a Christian pastor. What kind of a commitment do you have if you have not gone before God to promise your ongoing love and your commitment to this relationship for the long haul? What else is there? But someone may quibble or have an argument with me, but that's my perspective as a Christian pastor. And that's exactly what I was thinking about when I made that decision. But I promised Jerry that I would love her always, and I'm going to keep my promise. That's the heart of it. I used to think early in my ministry, I used to think the magic moment when somebody was married was when the pastor pronounced, "I now pronounce you husband and wife." And I thought that was the magic moment. And I had to be corrected on that. It's not what the officiant says, but it's what the couple says to each other. It's the promise that the woman gives to the man. It's the promise that the man gives to the woman. That is what binds them together. That's what becomes the glue that gives them a lifelong connection that lasts through all the ups and downs. It's the promises. It's the promises.
There, you just reminded me of that bridge, because that river below can be calm, but it can be rough too.
Right. In flood state,
rapids.
that river can be throwing debris and whole trees, even houses at that bridge. Could quite likely that river could be trying to destroy that bridge, to undermine that bridge, to tear that bridge down. The forces in the world really do work against having lasting relationships. So you really need to have, you better have the foundation pillars down deep into bedrock to be able to last through those terrible forces that the world will throw at us. So what are the vows that are given in marriage? I'm drawing a blank.
Do you take this man, a woman, or do you take this man to be your lawful
wedded husband, to have and hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health? Those are biggies. Right there.
Very big.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about that last one that you didn't mention. Until
death. Thank you. I did not finish the phrase. You're right. Until death, we are parted by death. Until we are parted by death. Yeah.
Because of the reason that one man I got interested in early on, before I did dating anyway, he was a bass in my choir at the Methodist Church in I'm not going to say where. I don't know who I'm talking about, but
all right.
His wife had been gone 10 years.
All right.
And mine had been gone 6 months, but I was starting to think that I wanted to find somebody else to spend the rest of my life with.
Sure.
And this man was not interested in finding another partner. He said, I'm still in love with my wife and I don't want to cheat on her.
Right.
And
Right.
I thought, I felt like that first couple of dates I went out on, I felt like I was cheating on my husband. It was a real
It's sort of a sense of unfaithfulness. Right. This is not fair. He's not here and I'm with this other man. I'm enjoying myself. Maybe I shouldn't be enjoying myself. I can see how that would lead to a sense of breaking vows or unfaithfulness. Yeah. Boy, what a dilemma.
Used to
Wow.
be with another man. I mean, even to have lunch with him or whatever.
Right. Boy.
But I had read somewhere a long time ago that getting remarried after your spouse has died is really a compliment to that ex-wife or husband.
And can be so, I'm sure.
Yeah. And I think that's a different way of looking at it from the fact that I'm cheating on them or.
Right.
But
you found that when you were married to your husband, that life was good. You enjoyed that covenant relationship with him, and you found it to be healthy and bringing you to a sense of wholeness and completeness. You were enjoying it and that sort of thing. And so it is, in a way, to seek that kind of relationship again is saying to your first husband who's died, I love you, and you were so loving to me, and it was the relationship, the one and only relationship in my life, and but it was so good. I'd like to try to see if that can be done again. You were so wonderful. I want to see if there's someone who can be as wonderful to me as you were. So it is a compliment. It is a compliment.
But is the opposite like this man who was widowed for 10 years, who still honored his whatever vows to his wife?
Yes, and I know a widowed man who
what is good for them
feels the same way. There'll be never anybody that could take my wife's place.
Right.
We all grieve.
You never forget that. You never forget that.
You never do forget it. But each person has their own kind of grief. I remember after my father died, my mother ended up living in a retirement center, and she said to me over and over again, to all of my brothers, I'll never marry again. Your father was the only one I could ever be with. I can't imagine being intimate with any other man, and so marriage is out of the question. I would kid her. I said, now, Mom, honestly, if you get a chance to remarry, let's try it this time. At least make sure he's rich, will you?
That's hard.
She'd whack me one.
No, I used to say the same thing. No, in fact, the first time my sister, about 3 months after Bob had died, that she said, well, I think you ought to see about, think about finding a new partner and dating again. And I thought, I don't want to get married again. Once was enough for me. Yeah. And then 4 months, 6 months later, guess what? I was on the website looking for someone. Right. So,
but you see, that's an indication of healing for you. You were progressing through your grief, and it was an indication of your healing. But I'm taking it in that regard. I'm taking it that you were, something was developing within you, and you were becoming aware of the things you were missing, and not being in a mutual loving relationship without your husband there with you. So, I think that's a very human need, to be loved, to offer love, and to be loved.
It's one of the basic needs human needs.
I'm sure of it. The
need to not only receive love, but
to give love.
I mean, I don't know how many animals are that faithful.
I understand geese are lifelong partners.
Are they?
Yes, I know that there are other animals similar to that, but just comes to mind right now that geese have lifelong. And I also believe that eagles also have lifelong partners. They nest together. They travel together and raise chicks together, and care for the newborns together, and do it over and over again over the years. So
Okay.
there are indications of faithfulness in several that you point to among our animal friends. Yeah.
Well, is it time to ask, well, how do I know if I really love this guy?
I'd like to hear. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you got that list, Rebel, and we'll chit chat. Were there any of those that you wanted to talk about?
Well, let's take a look.
I was kind of surprised that you're addicted to the person. I believe the rest of you want to be with them as most of the time as you can, but is that addiction? I don't know.
That's an awfully strong word, and usually with a negative connotation. If I'm addicted to drugs or addicted to alcohol, that is something that it's something that is going to destroy my life unless I break that addiction. I'm not sure that I would choose that word addicted, but you're strongly attracted to that person and want to be with him or her all the time.
Yeah, I like your version better.
I would put it that way. But
how
still,
about wanting them to, your friends and family, to like them?
Right. Yeah, that's important. You know, you found somebody who it's developing that in for the case of a woman, this man seems to be proving to be honest and faithful and trustworthy and that sort of thing. And the woman is feeling a greater and greater appreciation for this man and for these qualities that this man has. And you want others to know this as well. So people important to you in your life. If you take this man home to meet your parents and other members of your family, as the case may be, and they have a strong negative reaction to that person that you're connecting with, that indicates there's going to be difficulty in your future, especially if you continue to pursue the relationship or you choose marriage. It will prove to be a terrible problem over the long haul.
But there are some problems with that, is that sometimes your family, they're not, maybe selfish reasons, they don't want you to fall in love.
Right.
You have to, I think it's a red flag maybe that, okay, you just have to consider that and watch out, and maybe just take a little bit more time before you decide what you want to do.
It's possible they see something in your new partner that you are blind to, and they're picking up on it.
My son, his first marriage, his friends, he was in a band, and two of those friends actually knew her very well, this girl, and they kind of wanted to warn David about her, but they didn't. And as it was, the marriage lasted 5 years, and after they divorced, then two of these friends said, well, you know, we should have told you but it wouldn't have made any difference either. It might have ruined the friendship and not the love, the marriage.
Right. Well, the other side of that coin too is if you bring someone who you're developing a relationship home to family, and the family has a strong negative reaction to that, it could be that they have ulterior motives. If you're a widowed person, they might be trying to protect their inheritance. And I have seen families fall apart in conflict because they were afraid that the special person that their mother was getting close to, eventually married, they were afraid that this guy was a gold digger, and it blew the family apart over the long haul. And in the end, tragic. When this woman died, she did marry her man friend, and they did have marriage together and for a number of years. And then she died of cancer. But by then, the children had poisoned the community against the man, and he had to move away to a different community. And on top of that, and with all the financial complications that came because they took one another to court and everything, they couldn't afford what the court costs and the lawyers' fees cost. They had to sell the farm, which is what the children were trying to preserve. They wanted to inherit the farm, and in the end, nobody got it. Nobody got it.
No.
So, there might be ulterior motives why, no, Mom, you can't get married again. No, Mom, that nobody's going to be good enough for you. No, Mom, don't do this, So it could be honest. They see something that you don't, or it could be a dishonest. And I think you mentioned that in the book. As I was studying last night, I was thinking, man, absolutely right. It could be greed. I'm not going to I don't want to share my inheritance. I'm looking forward to whatever I know this is going to be nice, and I don't want it to be diminished, or I don't want to lose it entirely. So,
Have you run into this? This is quite running the ground through the singles anyway. Is that these couples that are 70s and 80s are getting married in the eyes of God, but not in the law?
I've been aware of the situation for quite some time. I think probably ran into it about 30 years ago.
Did they? Well, we all knew.
They wanted to be married in God's sight. They wanted a spiritual marriage. They wanted a church ceremony, but they did not want to do it with a marriage license from the state. And what they were trying to do was each of them had their own Social Security income. And they knew that if they got married, then that income would be, instead of adding 2 and 2 get 4, it would add 2 and 2 and actually get just 3, because somehow, some way, and I don't understand the law about this, somehow, some way, Social Security income would be diminished if they married one another.
Well, that is true at certain ages. At certain age, that stops and isn't affected anymore. But I think the main ones that I'm running into are people have their wills and their trusts already set up, and they don't want to have to. Plus the fact that if one of you has to go to a nursing home, then all the combined income, both parties' income is combined as one,
right?
And the law, the state, and the facilities, they see that as your income, and they'll take that all and they'll spend all of that money on that first person, and then the second one comes along and they don't have any money.
There's nothing left for them,
right? So and I asked an attorney about that a couple years ago, and he says, yeah, that is the law, but there are ways to get around it, or
I see.
Diminish it somewhat. But I know several friends that have gotten married in the church, but not legally. They're keeping their last names, and their wills and trusts and things are in place there. So that's a whole another subject, I think.
I have heard of this. I've been aware of that, but I've never actually done that. Never, a couple where it's really not serious enough. They didn't ask me to actually do that.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I never answered the question: would that bother my conscience? Would I do it, or would I refuse?
Myself. That's some of the questions that I've had to deal with myself and figure it out. But let's go on. I think the next one, you celebrate this person's triumphs, even if you yourself are failing, and really look for a person who's going to do that. I mean, what is it? Used to, I don't know if it still is, but like if the woman makes more money than the husband and the husband feels diminished, well, the woman doesn't feel diminished. So why should...
Well, I think that's a kind of a trap we men put ourselves into, that, we got to be the big show, and we're supposed to be the providers and that sort of thing. And we should provide more, or the majority of what sustains the family and the marriage.
Mhm.
And that might not actually be true. I think it takes someone who's a really mature man to be able to say, so what? We
Right. I think that's the
have
key.
one account, both checks come in, we pay the bills, we decide together. Who cares who has more?
Right.
So to
Right.
be able to be genuinely pleased when your partner gets a promotion, but you seem to be caught in a dead end job, and to really celebrate that, I think that takes a large, in either direction, woman to man or man to woman. It takes a large person, a good person, to be able to say, well, just from my faith perspective, thanks be to God. We are both of us together are further blessed because of this, because of your promotion, because of your raise, because of your recognition, and I'm happy for you. And we are
Right.
still to get. We're both blessed. To rejoice with those who rejoice, and to weep with those who weep. That is one
That's another
biblical
thing. It can
definition.
still be encouraging to the
Mhm.
whichever one is not
Exactly.
being promoted. Or
Right.
my husband, my husband used to comment that, wow, you get all of this praise, and everybody loves your play and your music and all this and that, and they really like you, and I'm just me. And I said, but I love that song. You're the wind beneath my wings.
Ah.
I
See?
thought that came out there. I said, well, that's what you got to
Right.
remember.
You built him up in return. I mean, you are
Yeah,
so important to me.
it's
You are the
very
one who you lift me up, and
right.
that's so good for
He
him
allowed
to
me
hear
to
that.
do the things that I did.
Yeah.
There are other men will complain, well, you're always at church, or you're always doing this, or and well, he allowed me and encouraged me to do
That's a
the
wonderful
things that
thing.
I did, and that was it. Going to the next one is, you definitely like this person, and this person likes you. Why would you even be
What
love
kind of a
with
word
somebody
choice?
you didn't like?
I really like you, but I don't understand why you hate me.
I
Pass
like
that
this
around.
one.
I don't understand why you like somebody who hates you. Kind of a
I like this one man, one's profile in his picture and what he had written to me. And then he quit writing to me. And I commented to my brother, well, gee whiz, this guy seems to really like me, but yet he keeps dropping me and blah, blah, blah. And my brother looked at me and, why would you want to like somebody that doesn't like you? And I thought,
good question.
no, you're
Good
really,
question.
really.
Yeah.
Okay, the next
Right.
one is, really miss this person when you're apart and want to be
Yeah.
together. I think
Yeah.
that's very true.
Very
And
true. Very
this
true.
one, your sense of self has grown through knowing this person. I used to say, we're better people because we are together.
All right.
I think
And I
I'm
think that
better when I'm with you.
when you are with someone who loves you and is building you up, first of all, you feel better about yourself.
Mhm.
You finally find that, hey, maybe I am worthwhile because someone loves me, someone I trust loves me, and
Mhm.
and maybe their perspective about who I am and the the good aspects of my life. Um, she's sharing that with me, and so it could be a new insight for me. Gee, I really didn't think of myself in that way, in that regard before, but
Mhm.
because of what she has told me, I've learned something of quality about myself, and
Mhm.
so that's what a loving relationship does. Your partner reveals these things maybe you weren't even aware about before.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that helps a lot. And the last one is this, I don't know, you get jealous but not suspicious. I don't think that's a
I did trip over that a little bit.
okay. That's about as bad as predicted.
I've always been told that the green-eyed monster of jealousy was always a bad thing. Always a bad thing. But suspicious, maybe that indicates that the jealousy is moving me to start to spy on my partner, or to just automatically assume that my partner is lying to me because I believe already the worst. I believe that my partner has not been faithful to me. So, yeah, when in the first years of your marriage and that sort of thing, at first it's all about being together and togetherness and time shared and that sort of thing. And then after a while, you begin to need more social connections, and you still need outside friendships. And I think women need women friends. I think men need men friends. I think we need that kind of time apart from one another to commiserate together. Ladies I know out there saying, "You'll never believe what he said to me. You'll never believe what he's been doing lately." And oh man, what are we going to do? And anyway, so we do need those outside friendships. After a while, the marriage relationship, as important as it is, really all by itself, it can't sustain you in a social way. After a while, you're looking across the table to the same face. You're sitting in the living room, sharing the same TV programs and that sort of thing. It begins to be sort of a whole hum routine. And so we need to have these other avenues, these other activities, these other relationships. So the thing is, when my wife is away and I'm visiting with her friends, having an activity, a ladies' activity, and that sort of thing. I'm home. Whenever we were younger, I was caring for the children, and that I would watch the children when Jerry was involved in that way. going to the women's meeting at the church and that sort of thing. I'd be willing to do those things to back her up and say, "Sure, it's your turn. You go ahead." And take on the extra responsibilities. Maybe I'd have to do the dinner that night because Jerry wouldn't be home in time. But I tell you what, I'm not a cook. I'm as far as the kitchen's concerned, if I'm in the kitchen, unless I'm eating, I'm a fish out of water. And I know there's certain things that I can do and that sort of thing, some recipes that I am comfortable with, but I really don't enjoy doing it. Maybe it makes it all the better gift because Jerry knows that it's kind of a sacrifice for me to prepare a meal for the family.
Right. So, we're about out of time. I see.
Okay.
So I would just like to conclude by saying that I think love is a commitment, and it gives glue that keeps the couple together.
You're right.
I was sad to learn that commitment was becoming a bad word, but I sure hope love does not become a bad word. And to my audience and our audience, I thank Carl again for coming and having this conversation with me.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad we
we'll
could
come back and do the other two lists next time, maybe. And I'm Shelby Wagner, and I hope you will go and grab a copy of my book, Learning to Dance in the Rain, and read these for yourselves. Thank you again for coming. See you next week. Same time, same place. I see. Hey, there we are.